And it looks like we are live. Got to let the stream breathe for just a minute. Got to get the thumbs up from John K. MHH down there. And it looks like we're good to go. Mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country. Welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Sanderson. Joining me, as always, is my good friend and colleague. He is Mile High Huddle's senior NFL draft analyst, one and only Erick Trickel. Erick, what's going on, man? There's a lot of big news going around. Obviously, the Deshaun Watson rumors just continue to swirl. I mean, with obviously the Kareem Jackson comments last week, and now Jeremy Fowler has a report out that that Deshaun Watson would be at least interested in coming to the Denver Broncos. What do you make of all that? How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. I'm super excited. I just got my first shot of the Moderna vaccine. Oopsies. But so doing good about that. My arm's a little sore from it, but doing all good. It's been a good week. As you said, a lot of Broncos news. The Deshaun Watson stuff, man, I really don't think he'll get traded before the draft. And from things I've heard, I think that it might be better if it's actually waited. I think that the Broncos' chances of being able to get him actually goes up if he's traded after the draft. So we'll see what happens there. My biggest thing is what Philip Lindsay said, which is just absolutely mind-boggling. Yeah. Very easy to on the bandwagon with him and trash on Pat Shurmur, but this is a guy who he made an argument about how often he was running between the tackles. He ran more outside, almost the same percent of outside runs as he had a year ago. So not sure what's going there. I think he'd still probably upset that no contract and, Melvin Gordon, which he wasn't happy about. Then he's talking about how he wasn't used as a receiver out of the backfield. And this is a dude who had 13 drops on 101 targets. He had 3 drops on 11 targets last year. Like, you want to know why you're not being used as a receiver? You can't catch the ball. So I think that he's just kind of submitting himself out of Denver.
Well, how would they know that he can't catch the ball? They never give him those opportunities.
They gave him 11. They gave him 11.
That whole interview on Cecil and Nick, or Nick and Cecil, however you say it, on 104.3 The Fan it was a good interview. I mean, he was candid as he always is. He's a very spirited person. He's a fan favorite, so people really wanted to tune in and listen to it. But there was just some things that didn't necessarily make sense or coincide with what actually happened on the tape. So if you actually go back and watch that, you might learn just a little bit more about yourself, Philip Lindsay, and the way that you were not actually using those outside runs to your advantage. You were cutting them back inside and running between the tackles, like you said that you do very well, which you do. Not throwing shots here. But anyways, guys, before we really get into the gist of the main part of we got a great new series for you guys coming out. Probably do one of these every other week, maybe every third week or so in the Would You Rather series. But guys, listen up, fellas. It is 2021 and 2020 sucks. So we got that new year, that new me feeling going, and the best way to get that cultivated is with Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your boys and helping 2 million men all over the world get rid of just the nastiness everywhere, all over their body, facial hair, it doesn't matter. So guys, if you let yourself go in 2020 while in quarantine, Manscaped is here for you to reboot and stay clean and shaved here in 2021. Now, Erick, what's up, man? What's the deal with this carrying bag? What's it called? The Shed?
Yeah, it's called the Shed. It's actually it's a nice, wonderful little bag for just all your toiletries whenever you go on a vacation or anything like that. It's got good size to it, as you can see, and just there's extra pockets, everything. It's very easy to clean. You just wipe it down with a damp rag. And also, it's really good for carrying your Lawnmower 3000. Also comes in this very handy carrying pouch. It's very easy to use. It's simple. And the best thing about it, in my opinion, is that it comes with a little light. So just added visibility when, working down there is always a wonderful thing to have. You don't want to be nicking anything or anything like that down there. They bunch of other stuff. They have the crop mops, which are little wipes for down there. Those are wonderful things for after certain moments, and nail clippers that aren't too bad. Cologne, all sorts of stuff. They have a nose hair trimmer that I'm really looking at getting. You guys can't tell, but my nose hair is actually kind of bad. So got to definitely look into that and cut that down a little. But they've got a lot of wonderful products, and all of them can fit in your wonderful little Shed carrying bag.
Yeah, they've got this little fingernail clipper set. It's got some fingernail clippers here, tweezers, little nail file and whatnot. Called the Shears 2.0. They sent this to us as a little gift for doing everything for them and for as part of being the sponsors here. But guys, the easiest way to get this stuff is to go to manscaped.com, type in the code HUDDLE. You'll get 20% off and free shipping on all of your orders at manscaped.com. Again, go to manscaped.com. use the promo code HUDDLE for 20% off and free shipping on everything for your grooming needs. Your boys, they're going to thank you. I'm telling you. And your wife's going to like it too. You're going to be well kept, well cleaned up, looking really nice. So they're going to appreciate that as well. Now, guys, now that we're done with this out of the way, Eric, I'm going to let you give the rundown on this really fast and give us kind of the breakdown of what this is his idea, everybody. His idea on the Would You Rather series. What are we dealing with here?
Well, actually, it belongs to Benjamin Skolak of the Draft Network. It's a series he does, or at least used to do. I don't know if he still does it. I did an article series about this a couple of years ago. It never really took off, but it's something that is, in my opinion, it's very fun to do. It's a exercise in value. It's all about, would you rather take player X in round A or player Z in round B? So we've got a couple examples here, and you guys are going to sit here and be given most of it. You, the chat, are going to be leading this conversation and steering this conversation. And it doesn't have to be just would you rather, it's just any kind of draft questions from you guys. We're here. We're all focused on you today. Our conversation was directed to just to get you guys, to have you get more involvement from you guys and everything like that. And but first, before we really get into it, I want to say hi to a couple people in the chat. And Mohammed Badri comes in with a $2 donation. Thank you, Mohammed. We really appreciate that. You really are becoming the lead man of Dove Valley Deep Divers, and not just our show, but I know you're very supportive of all the podcasts out there. Yep. Dylan Von Arks, he's here around, says, ready for another awesome pod. Sup, Broncos country. I hope you guys are ready, because this is going to be a fun one. As I said, you guys are directing the conversation, so make sure you have your Would You Rathers ready. Chase Wilner says, -10 down here in Montana. Chilly one tonight for me. Hey, just out of curiosity, if you don't mind sharing, where at in Montana are you from? I've been down there. I was down in Missoula area, and it was a nice little area. Didn't mind it. I went up to the one lake north of it. I can't remember what it is called, but it was a nice place there. Paul comes in with saying hi, Lance and Eric. Hi, Paul. Welcome. It's always good to see you. I'm not going to respond to your other one because you said Najee Harris at 9. You're just trying to trigger me here. Tyler Randall came in with a $5 donation. What are your thoughts on cornerback Trey Brown and safety Trey Norwood? Beast and I have talked on Twitter and agreed that they should be at least looked into. I'm actually not as high on them. I watched them in early December, just a couple games of theirs, and I came away. I was like, all right, like these are guys that like early late rounds, like or early day 3. I mean, it's a round 4, round 5. But more I dug into them, the less impressed I became, and they've kind of fallen down my board. I think Trey Norwood is now looking at like a round 7 undrafted grade, and I think Trey Brown is right around that same area, but I can't say for sure. They definitely interested me before I dug deeper into them. Ernie Mays is also here. We want to say hello, Ernie. You're always around supporting all the shows and everything like that, and we all appreciate you from here at the Valley Deep Divers. Gary Smith, Lindsay gets ragdolled too much. That's true. Jason O'Seal says, howdy, Broncos country, and we say howdy back to you, Jason. And just everyone else. We got Richie in here. He's looking forward to this. So, yeah, hey, we are too, man. I was super excited to bring this up. And it's always an awesome conversation to have. Anything that exercises the value of picks is a wonderful thing. Now, to get into the examples for it, I'm going to start off, and as I said, it's exercise of value. That's the biggest thing. Player in X round or player in this round. And so my first one for you, Lance, is would you rather select Chaz Surratt in the second round or Cameron McGrone in round 3?
Well, if you flip those picks around, I would actually probably go in that direction. But if Cameron McGrone is there in round 3, then absolutely, I'm all over that one. I think that he's a second-round player, and he's going to drop just a little bit. He's good in coverage, a decent run defender, moves around very well. I think you can use him as a blitzer as well. But Chaz Surratt, just being as raw as he is, he was a quarterback at first. He transitioned over to linebacker over the last couple of seasons. He's still got a lot of learning to do. The high-end athleticism that he has, and, I mean, I think that you can really work with him as a coverage linebacker because he understands. I mean, he could be the quarterback of the defense, essentially, because he was a quarterback before. So with him understanding route concepts and designs in front of him, play recognition and stuff like that, you could actually find some value there. But just the rawness, if you're going to give me the opportunity to go with a more well-rounded player, a player that's been at the position for 3 years now. I think McGrone's a junior, so he's been playing at a high level for a long time for the Michigan Wolverines. Give me that player at round 3 because the value is more there. Because, like I said, I think he's a second-round player. Chaz Surratt would be an interesting guy to me in the 3rd or the 4th round, but not in round 2.
Now, the reason why I have it this way, because I'm going to defend how I have it just a little bit. Chaz Surratt, his rawness, you have a point there, but he has so much upside, and he's getting talked around as a potential first-round guy.
Really?
So
okay.
that's why I had him in the second round. And then Cameron McGrone, I have him down in the third round because there's some injury concerns with him.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to put him down a little bit and just, I mean, I don't know all the details there, but I think that's going to impact it. And plus, there are some issues the deeper he gets away from the line of scrimmage. Yeah. So that's why I kind of had it the way I did. So my other one for you is going a little bit talking about that first round. Christian Darrisaw, the offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech at 9, or would you go with the Northern Iowa Spencer Brown in round 3?
You know what? We talked about this earlier, and you said it was not going to be the guy that because I had James Hudson here because I had pretty much the exact same question for you. I had Christian Darrisaw at 9 or James Hudson on day 3. Spencer Brown had a fairly decent Senior Bowl. He helped himself out. Really good length, an athletic guy, moves around very well, very physical, especially in the running game. There's a lot to like with this kid. And to me, this is a hard one because I really do like Christian Darrisaw. That's another big, mean guy. It's tough, though. The thing is, I don't necessarily value that offensive tackle right now in the first round just because of the way that the offensive line is set up. Now, this will actually change in a little bit depending on the Juwan James situation, so that I can definitely see the argument for taking a Darrisaw at 9. But at the same time, if James is going to be here, I would rather go on a high upside player that you can get as a developmental prospect that needs another year of refinement, like a Spencer Brown, like a Cordell Volson, or a James Hudson, for examples. I would rather go in that direction and try to focus on the defense more than in the first round, the first 2 and 3 rounds, actually. But to kind of spin this off of you after this, I got one for you about the offense specifically in round 1 as well. So what do you have to say about that?
It's definitely an interesting one. This is one that, as I was writing it down, I couldn't decide which way I want to go. I think I would actually probably go a little bit with Christian Darrisaw. I think that he's got a little bit more there. He's got a little bit more power. He's got a little bit more versatility. I think Spencer Brown, depending on the scheme, he can start day 1. But if you're not running that scheme, it's going to take some time to get him up and going. I would love to pair him with Mike Munchak, but in the terms of value, I think the value of Darrisaw round 9 is a little bit better than Spencer Brown round 3. Now, a couple more guys I want to say hello to just because they weren't here when I was saying hello. First, Todd Osendorf says, love DVDD. Hey, man, we appreciate that. We're glad some people love this show. And, of course, I got to shout out the guy from Homer, Alaska, Malcolm Brown. Thank you for tuning in, Malcolm. It's always nice to see you here, seeing a fellow Alaskan support the show and everything. And I was just down your way not too long ago, and I'll be down there again sometime this summer. Going to be going fishing, halibut fishing out in the bay there. So definitely. And, man, I always forget. It's been a long time since I've been down there. I forget how beautiful Homer is. Yeah, maybe full of hippies, but man, it's so beautiful. The
freaking tie-dye-ville or whatever the hell you guys called it that one time. No, speaking of that halibut fishing, I was just talking to Samantha earlier tonight about how, like, I mean, I'm a hunter-gatherer. I like to fish and whatnot like that. I would really like to come up there to Alaska sometime, come meet up with you and go fishing, go dip netting and stuff like that. It just sounds like an amazing time. And also, hello to everybody. I haven't got a chance to say hello because Eric's long-winded tonight. No, I'm just playing. Chase Walter being you. Nazarudin died. Hey, easy. Shots fired, man. I don't appreciate that. All right. So for my first one here, and I mean, this is Broncos country, and right now we've got to kind of talk about the quarterback position with, I mean, all the rumors. You've got Matthew Stafford. There's Carson Wentz. You've got Deshaun Watson. I've got a different one for you, and it's one that I talked about a while ago. I think even on the show. With the Broncos selecting at number 9, are you going to sit around and wait and take a quarterback like a Trey Lance or maybe a Justin Fields falls or something like that? You're going to stay and take a quarterback at 9? Or, and this is the way that I would lean here, or would you rather trade number 40 and number 105 overall to the New York Jets for Sam Darnold?
Oh, this is an interesting one. This was kind of a little bit different than the Would You Rathers, but it definitely adds a little bit spice to it. This is a little tough. It's hard to say because, I mean, obviously I'd much rather bet on one of those quarterbacks being there. But if they're not going to be there, then would you bet on Sam Darnold? And that's really tough for me. All in all, I think I'd rather wait and see if a quarterback falls to me because then you still have more options.
Right.
And hey, if a quarterback doesn't fall to you, you can still can come back and hit that second and that 105. Or it'll be a little bit lower after compensatory picks are out and everything, and offer that to the Jets for Sam Darnold if he's not moved before then. But yeah, I'd rather sit and wait instead of going after Sam Darnold. I like him. I still think he has potential. I think Adam Gase really destroyed him, and hopefully we see Base Gase in here with his awesome little Avi that he has making fun of him. But it's just I think I'd wait and hope that Justin Fields or Trey Lance would fall there for Denver.
I kind of agree with you on that one, but also the upside of Darnold, and there's two sides to this coin here. Darnold has the upside, and he's been misused and has had zero help over there. And as you said, Adam Gase has been just terrible, and anybody that leaves Adam Gase turns into a superstar. I mean, ask Ryan Tannehill. No, it just with Darnold, you've got that high end upside. He was number 3 overall pick, and he could be available. And if nothing else, he's going to come and he's going to offer some incredibly valuable veteran presence that has started games and competition to Drew Lock. You're going to have a proven at least starter and backup. Depending on how that competition works out, doesn't matter if it's Darnold or Lock. You're going to have a proven starter. You're going to have a proven backup that have high end upside that could potentially be the quarterback of the future. Now, the reason why I would stick and sit at 9 is cost control, because Darnold's going into year 4. So you're going to have to make that decision on the 5th-year option for him potentially. And also you're going to have to think about if he does win the job and turns out to be a franchise guy, now you got to pay him after that fact. Now, if you go and you get like a Trey Lance, which is not one that I would necessarily like to go in that direction. I'd rather get Justin Fields, or thank God if Zach Wilson falls. But if you get those guys, you have 4 years at least of cost control. And the problem is you're resetting that clock again, and you're starting that rebuild over there. I would rather have the veteran presence and the experience with the two guys coming in and have that, because I think this team is very close. I'm a lot higher on this roster than a lot of people are. I think that the Broncos actually have a playoff caliber roster, especially on the offensive side of the football. If the quarterback play can come in and be even average, this is a top 15 offense at least. And I mean, you're going to get Cortland Sutton back, so I think that there's some high end upside there. Don't get me wrong, Deshaun Watson would be the pipe dream there, but you could get Sam Darnold, put him behind this good offensive line and give him some weapons to throw the football to, and he's going to have a lot of success. And I think that would be the direction that I would go in. Now, for my second one, we're going to go back to the offensive side of the football here. Speaking of those wide receivers and all those weapons here, okay, you have the opportunity. So you got to think about this here, and we've talked about this multiple times on Dove Valley Deep Divers. Tim Patrick's a restricted free agent, could potentially be traded this offseason. You have Cortland Sutton coming off of the knee injury and going into a contract year next year. You just took back-to-back wide receivers in Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler last year. So why not repeat that, make a strength, and you got the opportunity to take a Jalen Waddle or a Jamar Chase at least at 9 and wait on the defense in the depth? Or would you rather just run it back with all the wide receivers and take a Caleb Farley, a Patrick Surtain, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Micah, the best defender on the board at 9?
I definitely go defense there. As much as I think that the wide receiver is a bigger concern than a lot of other fans do, with the Tim Patrick situation, with Cortland Sutton and his situation, with the drops that we saw from Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, hedging your bet there a little bit. I like this wide receiver class. I think you can find talent day 3 that can come in and add that competition. I'd go with the best defender because it's not top heavy at the class. So if one of these top guys are there, you take the shot. And that actually brings me to one of the questions that we had, and I'm not sure quite where it's at. I'm not sure where it's at, but it was somebody was asking about Micah Parsons at 9 or Caleb Farley. Who would we take? I would definitely go with Caleb Farley personally. Big reason for that is the positional value. There's much more value in a cornerback early than there is a linebacker. Linebackers, they typically peak their value. I think round 3 is when they're the most valuable for it, meaning you get the best return for the draft slot. And then with Micah Parsons, of course, there's all the stuff that's off the field. And Bucky Brooks, what he said, he's a close friend to the family and everything like that, very close to him. And he came out and he was talking about the questions of maturity, the questions of leadership with Micah Parsons. And if I'm taking a linebacker at 9 overall, I don't want those concerns. I don't want that to be an issue. I don't want to sit there and be wondering if that's going to be the case or not, if we're going to have to deal with this. I don't want that. I would go Caleb Farley at number 9. And Micah Parsons, don't get me wrong, dude is super talented. He's a freak athlete. I think he can end up doing everything that you want a linebacker to do. But it's just, those off-field stuff, man, and the leadership concerns. There's a lot of people that believe that he's going to be a better edge. That he just doesn't seem to have the interest in improving his coverage play, stuff like that. And it's just it's just a little bit more of a concern than I'd be willing to take.
No, I actually agree with you on that one. I have Caleb Farley as my top-ranked cornerback for the Broncos because he's a better scheme fit than Patrick Surtain is. In fact, I probably would put Eric Stokes as cornerback 3 over J.C. Horn specifically because he's a better scheme fit than J.C. Horn is. J.C. Horn's more press man cover corner, probably a number 3 kind of a guy. There it is.
That was a question.
That was a question.
Thank you, John.
9. Thanks, John, for pulling that up. I was actually looking for that. He's got another one down there as well, asking about Kwity Paye at 9 as well. So that would be another option. I'm still going Farley there because I don't think Kwity Paye fits in this defensive scheme.
John, if you want to bring up that one comment real quick, just to give that birthday shout out. I don't know if your wife's listening or not, but if so, tell her, or even if she isn't, go ahead and tell her that the Death Valley Deep Divers guys tell her happy birthday.
Yeah,
hope she has a good one. And it's
Joey.
hopes, and here's to another year. Like, just happy birthday to her, Joey.
Yep.
We did get a super chat here real quick that came in saying from Joshua Shadow, $25. Thank you, Joshua. We really appreciate that, as we appreciate any kind of donation we get. Super
absolutely
generous of you. It says, living in Iowa, there's not a whole lot of people for me to talk Broncos football with. So I look forward to these podcasts nightly. Would rather go Mac Jones or trade up to get Trey Lance if we went quarterback in first round, if you go quarterback. I'm not so sure on Mac Jones in round 1. I mean, maybe late to get that 5th-year option, but that's about it. I wouldn't, obviously not nowhere near 9, nowhere in the top 20, maybe not even top 25. But if I'm moving up to get a quarterback, obviously my eyes are on Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, but I wouldn't mind Trey Lance at all. And this is you are betting on his upside and your ability to develop him. You've got to do some stuff to build around him, and you got to kind of follow the blueprint that the Buffalo Bills laid out when it came to Josh Allen and how they used him early on. Well, they developed his passing aspect by balancing out his deficiencies as a passer with what he could do as a runner. You kind of got to do the same thing with Trey Lance there.
No, I totally agree with you on that one. And I want to bounce this off of you here because thank you, Josh, again for joining us tonight, because Joey actually come right back in here after the birthday shout out for his wife. And he says, would you rather draft your ideal pick at number 9 or trade back, giving us 5 picks in rounds 2 to 4? Now, this is where I'm going to come back and go back to that question about Mac Jones, because, if it's like Indianapolis who picks at number 21 or Pittsburgh who picks at number 24 and they want to trade down, or to trade up, and they're willing to give you that extra first-round pick or a second-round pick next year on top of that, that really does intrigue me. And then you can go and you can get a Mac Jones in the 20s, mid-20 range, somewhere around in there, and you have that hedge for Drew Lock, and that's about the range where I would like to go get a Mac Jones. You get away from number 9, you're going to pick up some extra capital this year. You're going to pick up some extra capital next year as well. And Jones can be the hedge, and it could potentially, sit behind Lock for a year, learn just a little bit, learn the system, and maybe next year you that hedge pans out and goes in that direction. So that is actually something that really intrigues me on that one. Jones is a really good fit for what Pat Shurmur wants to do, other than pushing the ball vertically. He doesn't have the biggest arm. That's there. Don't get me wrong. The arm strength is there. He's not a tight window thrower, but he can push the ball down the field. We saw it in Alabama. So
speaking of being a fit for Pat Shurmur's scheme, did you see the stuff that Tony Pauline of Pro Football Pauline about Drew Lock not being basically not being smart enough to pick up Pat Shurmur's offense?
I did.
Yeah, and I mean we mentioned that on Death Valley Deep Divers before, that they really dumbed down the offense to benefit him. But yeah, you got to have the brains for Pat Shurmur's offense. Yep. And there's a question if Lock has that, and it's a rightful question. There was a question about his football IQ going back to Missouri and everything. Mac Jones has that. And we've got a couple super chats here that I want to get in. He says, Malcolm Brown, coming in from Homer, says, which teams that have a similar defensive schemes will we be competing with in the draft? Erick's Halibut Fund. The team, honestly, the team that's most worrisome with having to compete is the Los Angeles Chargers, with hiring Brandon Staley, a disciple of Vic Fangio, as their head coach. I have no doubt in my mind they're going to be implementing this scheme. He implemented it in the Rams, and they ended up having a top 5 defense, having the best interior defensive lineman and the best cornerback helped, of course. But, man, he got some good young players in there in the draft last year. Jordan Fuller ended up being a big piece for them. I think was as a 6th or 7th round pick. and he's the one to worry about because they're picking pretty high, and they can really use a lot of the same pieces that the Broncos could use. So that's the team that I'm most worried about. Outside of them, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that really uses the off-zone match quarters near as much as Vic Fangio does. Obviously, there's teams that run similar schemes.
I got one for you. The New England Patriots, they run a lot of that same cover 4 match quarter stuff. They do run some 2-man as well.
I thought theirs was a little bit more off-man, though, not off-zone. It's a technicality difference there a little bit. But.
Yeah, it is a technicality. You're writing that across the middle of the field as well, and that rather than passing off to the zone, they do run a lot of 2-man there, and it is off-man. No, they actually have the same kind of the same stylistic similarities between Bill Belichick and Vic Fangio. That's actually kind of uncanny to watch when Belichick actually has the horses up front to do what he needs to do and get pressure up front. The coverage scheme looks very similar. It's kind of wild here. As far as another one that runs some 2-man stuff, and I hate to do that because it's not 2-man for Vic Fangio. It is more match quarters in running that cover 4. Let's see your 2-man. Not Arizona, because that's Vance Joseph and his whatever the hell that is. Oh man, I can't really think of anybody. Tennessee, maybe. Tennessee, I think they run some 2-man stuff. I don't know. That's a really good question though. Ernie jumping in here. Happy birthday to Joey's wife. Grab that super chat again, there, John. Paul jumping in here with the $20 super chat. We appreciate you, Paul, for joining us as always, man. You're one of the, this is DVDD superstar number 1 here, guys. Like the 5th or 6th episode, we actually took a question from Paul off of the YouTube page and turned it into an episode. Like Paul has been around for over a year now. 2 of my favorite people, learn so much. Have a great time. Thank you. Hashtag Erick's Horsehead 21. Okay.
I mean, this is going old school. Like one of his first things was about having me do a show with one of the Broncos horse heads on. So that's definitely going back, and I actually forgot about it until I saw it. And I actually originally read that as Erick's Forehead Fund. And I was like, what am I becoming, Peyton Manning or something in here?
That's close enough. All right, so hey, hold on. I got a good question here before we grab this next super chat from Savage Boy Kev on Twitch. Got to shout out our Twitch supporters, man. We appreciate you guys for joining us. What are your thoughts on the AJ Bouye trade? Do you guys think that the Broncos should get a cornerback in free agency, maybe a Patrick Peterson? Erick, we kind of talked about this in our group chat the other day. And if the price is right, I'm actually kind of intrigued about that. If you're going to use him more safety, but I think that in Vic Fangio's scheme where he can be off a little bit and not play the more press man stuff in the cover 3, I think that he could actually fit. And I think Vic Fangio's scheme can kind of disguise the fact that he's losing a step. I don't know, but I could be completely wrong on that.
Here's my thing: is I would be fine with him for a 3-year deal, depending on the cost. I don't want if he's super expensive. If he's more than about $11 million on an average per year basis, I'm out.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: is cornerbacks after year 7 or 8, they typically hit a wall and they completely fall off a cliff. That's typically 30, 31, and I think he's going to be 32 or just turning 31.
He's 32.
I can't remember which exactly. But here's the thing about it: is you can prolong their career by moving him to safety. So you bring him in, 3-year deal, boom, you start him at a boundary corner. You have number 1, you see how he does. Guess what? Next year, Kareem Jackson's a free agent. You move Patrick Peterson to safety, there you go. You have a replacement for Kareem Jackson right there. I'd be okay with it for that, but again, it's got to really come down to the cost for me. And as for AJ Bouye, he never lived up to expectations. I mean, he fit the scheme pretty well, and he came in. His first little bit of the Titans game was all right, and then he got hurt, and he just ended up having to play hurt when he was back. And then he got hurt again. Then he got suspended, and it was just time to move on. Really, it's a shame that he wasn't able to live up to expectations or anything like that. But he'll bounce back somewhere, and hopefully he ends up going and having that year or having a good year. But he was one of those guys that he hit that cliff. Like he's been on a steady decline, and since I think 2017. So it was something to be concerned about when they got him.
No, that's very fair. Just go back to that 2011 draft class, guys. Like, think about this for just a second. You had Patrick Peterson was a part of that. You had J.J. Watt, who was a part of that, who just got released by the Houston Texans today, and Von Miller as well. Like that draft class is starting to flip it over and get to that old side. These are cornerstones of teams for over a decade now, and they're hitting the free agency mark and they're hitting that decline. And it's kind of wild to see how all this is coming down, and Peterson being a part of that. Now, as far as Bouye, I agree with you. The suspension and everything like that. Now to replace that, as far as a value fit, I like Kevin Johnson. Actually, this is a guy that we've talked about a couple times here on DVDD in free agency for last year. Garyon Conley might be a reclamation project that Vic Fangio can get something out of. He's more of a man coverage cornerback, but he could actually work. And then there was another one, Desmond King. Desmond King would be a pretty decent fit coming out of Los Angeles there. I like that as well. Let's see here. Try to find that super chat. We got another one coming in here.
DW,
there it is. DW, $25 Superman. We appreciate you for that. I love Lindsey's heart, but his legacy is finishing on IR. Javonte Williams is the number one back in this draft, period, even though ranked in the third round. At number 9, I want an impact player, period. Parsons fits the bill or Farley. Good job, guys. All right, now, Eric, we got a running back question here. Running back question, so let's Javonte Williams in the third round. Okay, I'm on board with it. I'm actually okay with that.
I think Javonte Williams goes –
is it Najee Harris or is Javonte Williams? Which one would you rather have the value-wise? Because Najee Harris is probably a tail end of the first round, second round kind of a guy. Javonte Williams, you could get in the tail end of the second round, third round.
So this might upset a Rich in the chat, Richie in the chat a little bit, but I'd rather go Javonte Williams in the second round over Najee Harris in the second round. I really like Williams' game. I like everything that he does. He's a true 3-down back. Najee Harris, I think he's good. I think he can be really good in the NFL, but man, I just love everything that Williams brings just a little bit more. Right now, he's looking towards being my number 2 running back behind Travis Etienne. Yeah, I really like Javonte Williams. I like him a lot. If he's there in the third round, I would be all for that. He's one of the few, because I have him graded as a second round player. He's one of those guys that he'd be falling in the third round, so that becomes value there. That's why I'd be okay with it in the third round. As for impact player, I agree with you. I agree that Denver should use it, get an impact player in round 1, and I think that it should be Caleb Farley. Micah Parsons, as I said before, the off-field stuff is just a little bit too concerning for me to be comfortable with taking him at 9.
Yeah, I love all the reaction coming out of that. Dylan with the hot take screaming blasphemy from Richie Rich. This is great. I love this.
Hey, I have some of the hottest hot takes when it comes to the draft. Like Davis Mills, if he played more than 14 games this year, he'd be QB4.
All right. I plugged him today. I'm in a group chat that's doing an all-time mock draft, essentially. 16 guys were picking players from all through the NFL annals, right? And this guy put out his quarterback rankings. He had Kyle Trask at 9, by the way. I was like, wait, you don't have Davis Mills here? Like this kid's actually pretty legit. He could be a first-round pick here. And he's like, I haven't watched enough of him. I'm like, yeah, there's not a whole lot to watch, but when you do watch, he just flashes, man. The guy's freaking awesome. It's so much fun to watch him. Davis Mills, quarterback out of Stanford, by the way, guys. Another super chat here from Levi joining us once again here. Sorry about that. $20 super chat. With all these elite quarterback free agency rumors and who might take them, do you see one or two of these top quarterbacks prospects falling to 9? And what does your gut say? This is a good question.
My gut says all 4 quarterbacks will be gone by pick 8. So I think if Denver wants him, I think they'd have to get up a little bit. 8 is the last one, I think. I think that Justin Fields, Trey Lance, whichever one of the 2 is there at 8, I think they're the pick for the Panthers, if I'm correct. Because I think it's Lions at 7, Panthers at 8, unless I have that backwards.
Yep, no, you're right.
Those are the 2 teams to watch. I think that both those are looking at a quarterback. Even though that the part of the Stafford deal the Lions did get Jared Goff back, I think they could really be looking at Trey Lance. Wild card is what the Atlanta Falcons do. There's been some talk about them just going with the cornerback. Patrick Surtain is a name I've heard very often when it comes to them as their top guy. He fits their defense. He fits what they want to do on defense. He fits that perfect mold for them. There's actually a book out there that I read not too long ago that has a lot from who I can't remember what his name is exactly. But he's like the vice president of player personnel or something. He's basically the Falcons' John Elway. He helped build the Buccaneers Super Bowl team in 2002 ended up getting fired because John Gruden and him didn't see eye to eye. He went to the Falcons and has made a pretty good career there. But he always talks about Falcon players and guys that look at what they do, and he kind of fits that mold of it. The book obviously goes a little bit more into what a player is, a team player is. It's Falcons because that's the team he's with. But he's definitely one I see there. But yeah, it just all depends. I would hope so, and I'd be fine with any of these 4. If they fell to 9, I'd be fine with any of them. And I think the Broncos are looking harder at quarterback than a lot of people want to believe.
No, absolutely. The writing's on the wall, guys. Your actions speak a lot louder than your words. Yeah, they can say they love Drew Lock as forever, and I don't disagree with them. I like Drew Lock. I'm not saying that he's going to be like a complete bust. I just think he's not it right now. And how long is it going to take for him to get there? Is it another year? Is it another 2? Well, at another 2 year, he's at the end of his contract anyways. And quarterback is the premium position. So the Broncos are very obviously, they were involved in some Matt Stafford trade talks. There's rumors flying around all over the place. It doesn't necessarily matter what you want to believe about Drew Lock. They're looking to upgrade the position in some way, shape, or form. And it's going to be either a veteran backup, or they're going to make a move to go get Sam Darnold, or, the pipe dream of Deshaun Watson is still there. There are reasons why the Broncos are linked in all this stuff, because the quarterback play was not good enough, whether you like Drew Lock or not. Those are facts, okay? So it just – I've lost my train of thought there.
It's all good. It happens to the best of us.
No,
I know.
It's like the Broncos are going to look to move on from someone there. But the one I want to – actually kind of a hot take conspiracy theory here. Speaking of the Falcons and Patrick Surtain, the one that I'm very interested in is the San Francisco 49ers at 12. What do they do? Because they are looking potentially at a quarterback. They're in the Deshaun Watson rumors. They've been involved in the Matthew Stafford trade talks. I think that the 49ers are not going to trade up with the Broncos. I think they're going to try to move ahead of the Lions and the Panthers, and they're going to move up to number 4, because if everything goes correctly, if everything goes correctly, you watch the Falcons drop down to 12 and still get Patrick Surtain. I mean, that's a legitimate possibility of happening there.
I don't think so. I don't think that if Surtain gets past them at 4, if they move down or something like that, I don't think he gets past the Cowboys. Pairing him with Trevon Diggs on the other side, he fits what he does. But we've got a couple super chats here that we still got to get to. Base Case comes in and says, "Who are some other good cornerbacks that fits Vic's schemes other than Farley? Any concerns for Farley considering injury issues and 1 year wonder plus opting out?" Now, This is actually a really good question, because I've seen a couple other people throw out there about the injury stuff, the 1 year wonder opting out. There's actually a study done that 1 year wonders at cornerbacks often go on to be very successful in the NFL. Of course, none of them have had to do a thing where they opted out the next year, because obviously this hasn't happened before. But no, I'm not really concerned about it. The injuries, it's part of the game. After he came back from the injury, he looked fine. He looked better than ever. The back spasms, it's something that quite a few players deal with every single year. Not a big deal there either. Opting out, obviously I can get a reason for a concern there, opting out. Not knowing how much he progressed, because he had a lot that he needed to show that he could do and improve on. So there is some concern there, but it's not like he's been sitting around doing nothing. No. I've heard a lot of things about what he's been doing this year to get better, to improve, working with former NFL cornerbacks on technique, stuff like that. So I'm very intrigued by him. I'm not concerned about him. Now, as for other cornerbacks that fit, I think Elijah Molden out of Washington, he'd be a good fit, but there's some concern that he's kind of a safety nickel kind of corner, and not so much a cornerback. Ifeatu Melifonwu out of Syracuse, and his teammate Trill Williams. They're both fits. I think Melifonwu round 3, depending on what comes up, because there's some off-field stuff with him. And Trill Williams probably round 4 or 5. Elijah Griffin out of USC, although I think that Devontae Bosby might scare them off from Elijah Griffin a little bit, because they're basically identical players. Eric Stokes is another really good one. And I saw somebody mention, if no Surtain, if no Farley, if no Parsons at 9, what do you do? Well, hey, look at that. I'm looking at trading down. I'm going to be targeting Azeez Ojulari. Here we go. John Houston with the $2 donation came in for that, and we appreciate that, John. And I didn't get to say it, and we appreciate Base Gates, and we appreciate all of you guys who throw in super chats. If those 3 are gone, then yeah, Azeez Ojulari, Eric Stokes, he's probably one of the top ones I'm at. I'm a little intrigued by Aaron Robinson. He's more press man corner, but he's shown some stuff to work off ball, which I haven't seen from Patrick Surtain. So there's a couple guys, and I know there's quite a few more. Greg Newsome out of Northwestern, he's another one that I'll be looking at after a trade down. I'm trying to rack my brain here because I
DJ,
know I'm
Daniel from Georgia. You've got
DJ Daniel's probably a day 3 guy. I think. Oh, yeah. Shakur Brown out of Michigan State. He's a guy that I actually kind of like a little bit more. He's one of those guys I wasn't super high on, but more I dug in, it kind of rose up a little bit my board for me.
So I want to go back to that question from John Houston really fast. The one about Farley, Surtain, Parsons off the board, and what did the Broncos do there?
Not take Najee Harris.
No, you don't take Najee Harris there.
Richie, I saw that comment.
You're probably gonna luck into a guy like a Penei Sewell falling to
you, buddy.
Like if you could get like that's what you do is you take the best quarterback available or a Penei Sewell because you have 3 of the top defenders in the top 10. You're gonna get a quality offensive lineman or a wide receiver or a quarterback. Like you're gonna go. Honestly, you should trade down there. You should trade down 5 or 6 picks. Let somebody come up and take a wide receiver. And excuse me. And then you target Joseph Osai out of Texas because that's the guy. That is the guy. Caleb Farley's and Patrick Surtain's pro comps. I don't necessarily like doing pro comparisons because
Jimmy Smith and Marlon Humphrey.
Okay, there you go. Who's who?
Marlon Humphrey isn't my favorite for Patrick Surtain, not by a long shot. But my other comparison might be a little bit more controversial. And one thing with comparisons that I don't like doing is a lot of people think that's going to be who they end up being in the NFL.
Yeah,
that's not what it is. But my other one is the name always escapes me. He was another former Alabama quarterback. He ended up going to the New York Jets and failing pretty miserably. I think it was the New York Jets.
Yeah, it was. I know exactly who you're talking
Morris
about.
Claiborne.
Yep. Milliner. D. Milliner.
Yeah, D. Milliner. He's the one. Morris Claiborne, I don't know. Wasn't he LSU?
He was LSU cornerback that went to Dallas.
Yeah. But yeah, D. Milliner, he's probably my closest comparison to Patrick Surtain. And D. Milliner, he ended up going to an off-zone scheme and failing miserably. But yeah, scheme doesn't matter. Anyways, guys, those are my 2 comparisons. Jimmy Smith, super athletic guy that came out, very scheme versatile, could do a little bit of everything. That's why I liked that for Caleb Farley. I think he offers up a little bit more scheme versatility. And then John Houston had another $2 donation. Shaquille Griffin, William Jackson, a good cornerback signing. I'm down with William Jackson. I think he can come cheap. I like his scheme fit. Shaquille Griffin, not so much. I think he's more cover 3 than what the Broncos currently do.
Yeah, same. I actually like William Jackson. He is more of a man coverage cornerback, but with what Vic Fangio did last year, and he kind of had to just because he was down to cornerback 8, 9, and 10, whatever the hell the depths that they were at. So they really switched over to some more 2-man stuff than the match quarter stuff. And William Jackson, if they do stick with that 2-man, he could actually fit there. But I think he can play off ball and play well in that zone coverage scheme. I think that's actually going to match some of the deficiencies he has with his hip fluidity. I think that's going to help him a lot there. Let's see here. There was another one that I wanted to grab really fast. It was actually a question. I got to try to find it again because the stream just jumped on me. We actually have enough comments in here that the stream jumped on me today. This is fun. I'm having a great time with this, guys. All right. Eric, I actually heard a really good joke for you earlier today.
Oh no.
Yes, this is great. Okay. This is absolutely phenomenal. Tom Brady has enough Super Bowl rings to wear on his one hand, right? So does Jason Pierre-Paul.
All right, guys, that's it for us today. I'm going to be looking for a new podcast partner.
I'm sorry, man. I had to. All right, here we go. Chris L jumping in here. Paris Ford value. The tape is amazing. Eric, I know you're super high on Paris Ford. What do you think of him?
I really like him. I think he's extremely versatile, multiple schemes that he can fit. Right now, I think he's a third round safety right now. Biggest thing is that he opted out late, and I think that kind of hurt him a little bit because it was the timing of his opt-out. There was some stuff going around about him and issues with coaches, and then he opted out. So definitely some concerns there as well, and I think that's part of the reason why he's kind of fallen a little bit. Todd Osendorf says, if Parsons was in the draft with Devin White and Bush, where does Parsons rank? This is a difficult one because if we just ignore the off-field stuff, Parsons would still be linebacker 1.
More than likely, yeah.
With that stuff factoring in, because you have to be concerned about it. He'd probably be linebacker 3 behind him. And I wasn't super high on Devin Bush. I wasn't a big fan of him, and we're kind of seeing why with him with the Steelers.
Can I get
his coverage? His coverage game just hasn't been that great. Great against the run, but go ahead, Lance.
So this is something that I want everybody to listen to, because we have found this out with Devin Bush. High-end athleticism does not equal coverage ability. Everyone's like, he's such a great athlete. He's a natural sideline guy. Have you seen him in coverage? He's great. No, he's actually not great. His rookie season, he gave up more touchdown passes alone than Noah Fant caught. Like if you're in coverage and you're giving up 6 touchdown passes to tight ends, like that's not good in coverage, guys. Yeah, he's a great athlete. Now, Parsons is another one, because there was already the concerns there with him not being able to drop back into coverage. And I mean, more edge kind of a defender, thumper up the middle and stuff like that. Where does the questions lie? Yeah, he's sideline to sideline guy. That's great. He has the speed and the athleticism, but does that actually mean that he can cover? No, that doesn't mean anything. He's just a good athlete. I mean, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is probably better in coverage right now than Micah Parsons is. And I don't think that there's a stretch to say that. Like, he is actually a coverage line. Well, so not coverage linebacker, a hybrid tweener safety linebacker hybrid kind of a guy, but he's actually good in coverage, and he's a high-end athlete there. So here you go, Eric. Since we're back onto the would you rather Micah Parsons at 9 or Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at 9? If you were pigeonholed into linebacker only.
I'd go Micah Parsons. I'd make sure I vetted all the off-field stuff a little bit. I think that he has a more natural fit into the Broncos scheme, and I think he actually has a position in the Broncos scheme. And then that also opens up the factor that you can sit there and move on from Alexander Johnson, because they will bring kind of the same thing to it. And I like his athletic upside to be good in coverage. The traits are there. It's just a matter of getting down the technique.
Yeah, and I agree, Chase. I definitely, Chase Wellner coming in here, we really need to cover. I definitely agree with that. I don't think there's anybody that's going to disagree with that statement, but it's a blatant statement as well. But you don't need to go, and it's hard for me to want to say this in this sense. Like, you don't necessarily need to go with that first round guy. You don't need to go get a Micah Parsons. You can find a coverage guy on day 2, day 3, and there are some really good coverage guys. I mean, Baron Brown.
Oh, I can give you a lot. I can give you a lot of day 2 coverage linebackers that answer that. I could even give you some day 3 coverage linebackers that bring up that. They just don't have the athletic upside that Micah Parsons has. I mean, if you want coverage guys, Garrett Wallow out of TCU, Anthony Hines out of Texas A&M. You can go look at Jamin Davis out of Kentucky. You can go look at Jabril Cox out of LSU and North Dakota State after he transferred. Cameron McGrone's an option there as well. Derek Barnes, he showed up a little bit. It showed more potential as a in coverage at the Senior Bowl than he did at Purdue. So he's definitely took to the coaching and improved there. Baron Browning, Justin Hilliard, and
Chaz Surratt. We talked about him.
Surratt. There's just a lot of them there. And again, it just goes back to the value. The value of a linebacker at 9 just isn't there.
No, it's not. And I will really actually kind of go in this direction here, because Base Gates jumping in here with the super chat. Rashawn Slater at 9. Can you replace James as a right tackle? Honestly, I think that he could replace any four offensive linemen right now. I think he could play center over Lloyd Cushenberry. I think he could play guard. He probably is not an upgrade over Garrett Bowles. Don't you dare do that to me. Don't you dare do that to me. Garrett Bowles is your bookend left tackle. I'm telling you what, man. Rashawn Slater on the right side, absolutely. He could upgrade over Graham Glasgow, because he's going to be an upgrade over Lloyd Cushenberry so Glasgow's probably better at center than Cushenberry is right now. You slide Glasgow over and insert Rashawn Slater at right guard. Boom, there you go. That's a high quality offensive line right there. Rashawn Slater at 9 with the versatility. I love the pick. I love the player too. Like, that's another good option here. I mean, we did Christian Darrisaw just for an example. I think Rashawn Slater is going to go in the top 5. Honestly, I think that he might actually be the first tackle, the first offensive lineman taken. Like, I could see him at number 3 and number 5 for sure.
It really depends on what happens with Penei Sewell. Where he goes and everything. I think that Rashawn Slater will probably be the second offensive lineman taken. I really like his game. I definitely think he can be an upgrade over Juwan James at right tackle, by the simple fact that I think we'll get more than 63 snaps out of him out of 2 years.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing for it.
Yep.
Couple questions here that I want to grab real quick. Dylan Von Arx says Jalen Mayfield might be an option. I like Mayfield. The issue is that he's very limited with his experience, and that can be a double-edged sword, especially at offensive tackle.
Yeah,
there's a lot of concerns about him just not having the technique, and if he doesn't get it down right away, he just might be better inside. And then Richie said, Eric, of the players, how many have the speed to keep up with an above average tight end? Speed doesn't equate coverage ability. I'd rather have a guy who can be in position than just be overall fast. Basically, there's not many linebackers that have that speed to keep up with Darren Waller or Travis Kelce. They got to have the smarts, and they got to be able to be in position. That's what I'd be looking at all day over and over again, especially with Travis Kelce. Because if you go back and watch Josie Jewell on Travis Kelce, Jewell was in position. He just gave up the catches, but it wasn't the fact that he was getting outran a lot of the time. He was in good position. He was smart enough to be in position, but the coverage ability just wasn't there.
Not only the coverage ability and the ball skills, but and again the athleticism there. But the thing is like you said, Eric, he was actually in position to make the play. He just didn't, and that's the big thing is being a cerebral linebacker like he is, and understanding your depth drops and understanding where your landmarks are and understanding what your responsibility in the coverage. Don't necessarily look for the high end athletic guys because you would love to have a high end athletic guy that can turn and run with those guys. But if they're a cerebral player, honestly, you can get the best of both worlds if you get Baron Browning at 40. Like, honestly, he's cerebral enough. He's got enough athleticism. He can turn and run with some guys. You got some blitz ability with him there. That's the guy right there. If you're at 40 and you're not going Richie Grant, my guy, Baron Browning might be the next guy that I'm looking at right there. Just because you have the versatility of him to play off the edge. He can blitz a little bit. He can drop back into coverage. He's an excellent run defender as well. That's another one that I'm really intrigued with. And he fits Vic Fangio very well.
And sorry, I just want to give a shout out to Miller707. He's always here. At some point, he always shows up. Sometimes he's late, and that's all good and everything. It's always great to see you in the chat, Miller707 champ. And then R. Powell, he asked a question earlier, and he said, Ford or the FSU safety, Hamza Nasser-El-Din, who would be a better fit? I think Paris Ford. I think he offers up a lot more versatility than Hamza Nasser-El-Din. Yep. I like Hamza. I like what he can do. It's just I would go Ford over him.
I actually agree with you on that one because I think Ford can play he can play single high. He's got enough athleticism to play single high if the Broncos want to do something like that. And he's also a really good tackler. He can play down in the box too. I think Nasr-El-Din is probably better suited as a box safety in a cover 3 scheme, just because. And I don't know if you're necessarily going to like this. I like the length. I just don't like. Sometimes he can get a little bit stiff in his movements. Every now and then he turn and run and actually can and play that deep safety role. But he is better suited because of his length, his physicality, his aggressiveness to play that box safety and in a cover 3 scheme. Honestly, him to Arizona would be an interesting fit behind Isaiah Simmons as well. Like, you pair those two guys together, that'd be a pretty decent safety tandem right there. Honestly, I think that there's enough versatility between the two of them they can actually make it work. But you can run Isaiah Simmons as that box safety, have a backup in Hamza Nasr-El-Din, or you can drop Isaiah Simmons back and play that deep coverage role as well.
John Houston came with another $2 donation saying Molden is Steele plays cornerback, strong safety, free safety, Matthew 2.0. Hey, I don't agree with that, him being Matthew 2.0. I think that I can see where you come from with that. I just don't really agree. I like Molden a lot. I think that he can play boundary corner a little bit more. I don't think he has to be that defensive back like Matthew is. But yeah, I like Molden. I definitely think he can be a steal. It's just depends on where you line him up at.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from there, though. I definitely do. Yeah. I see the thinking there. The guy that really reminds me more of a Tyrann Mathieu 2.0 is our Darius Washington, the safety out of TCU. That kid is all over the field. They line him up single high. They line him up in a middle of the field open. So that's 2 high safeties, middle of the field open. And they'll also drop him down in the box. They'll line him up as some cornerbacks to play some slot cornerback as well. That's the guy. If you're looking for a Tyrann Mathieu 2.0, our Darius Washington is your dude. Gavin Hole jumping in here really fast. I want to just say hi to Gavin because he says, I'm sorry I'm late. He's going to rewatch the show afterwards. Thank you for joining us, Gavin. We appreciate you on that, buddy. Let's see. What did you have there, John? That guy is coming in here. Eric, man, I actually heard a thump all the way down here when I get into the details of what actually just happened there. Kyle Pitts at number 9. You can't have too much weapons, man. Talk about your boy.
So on the Draft Primer pod, I talked about Kyle Pitts, and it was met with some resistance. And I'll reiterate what I said then, is the biggest thing is Drew Lock was most successful when the Broncos ran 2 tight end sets. I like Nick Vannett as a blocking role. I don't think anybody on the Broncos tight ends really has enough to offer as a receiver at this point. That includes Albert Okwuegbunam, who he can develop, but I still just see a number 3 tight end potential with him. Guy who can stretch the seam with his speed and attack deep and be a good red zone threat. Kyle Pitts is a guy that you can line him up out wide. You can line him up in line. His blocking isn't as big of an issue as so many other people can be.
Right, yeah.
And pairing him with Noah Fant adds so much strain on your opposing defenses, linebackers, and safeties that I think Drew Lock, if you are really wanting to run him back, you can't rule out Kyle Pitts at 9.
No.
Is that the way I would go? It really depends on who else is there. But, yeah, I definitely wouldn't rule it out. I love Kyle Pitts. I love what he can do for the Broncos offense. And I said this in a couple upcoming videos about the tight end position that will be coming out. I said the Broncos have a lot of bodies at tight end, but they are actually lacking talent. They really are. They have one guy who has more than number 3 tight end potential, and that's Noah Fant. Everybody else, Andrew Beck, he's a solid blocker, doesn't offer up hardly anything as a receiver. He's a number 3 guy. Nick Vannett, he's best in a number 3 role. And just so on and so forth. And Mark Langley coming in. It's good to see you back, Mark.
It is good to see you
no hard
back.
feelings. Definitely no hard feelings, man. What's in the past is in the past. And he says, what's up, Broncos country? Hashtag no hard feelings. Hey, Mark, what's up with you, man? It's been a long time no see. Hope you've been doing good, and hope life has been treating you well.
Yeah, man. We were actually just talking about you with Chad the other day about how we hadn't seen you in a while. Just was wondering how everything was going and how you were doing. It's good to see you back in the chat. We appreciate you for joining us tonight, man. We really do. No, I agree with you on that, and that was something that I want to go back to really quick about the Parsons, Farley, Surtain, JOK, well, like all those guys off the board, whatever. Kyle Pitts is a guy there, and it goes back into that same conversation that I put out there on our draft primer about Jalen Waddle being available there. If Jalen Waddle's available there, that's an added versatile skill set that you can get because he's not. Everyone's like, oh yeah, speed. No, he's a high quality route runner. He can stretch the field vertically. He can stretch the field horizontally. He adds more value in a bigger body, bigger catch radius, more reliable hands than a KJ Hamler. But you still have KJ Hamler to use that as well. Like there's a lot of versatility you can get with adding another receiver here, especially if you're going to run it back with just Drew Lock. Or say you do, like I said earlier, trade number 40 and number 105 for Sam Darnold, and you have that competition there. You still have number 9, and you can go and get another weapon for those guys to go out and like, all right, now you have no excuses. The offensive line is set. It's at least pretty decent. Regardless of what happens at right tackle. I mean, I understand the whole Juwan James situation, but you've got a handful, more than a handful of weapons to use at your array. Like it does not matter where you go with the football. The offensive line is all set up. You can never have too many weapons. And I think that's actually, it's more of a prudent move, something that you're thinking big brain and thinking out in front of things. Because if you then lose Tim Patrick, you then lose Cortland Sutton on the back end of this season as well. Now you still have 3 cost-controlled weapons. Also, you have a Noah Fant. So you still have 4 of your top 5 pass catching options, and also you're going to potentially get another running back later. Yeah, like you can work there. You have 4 young pass catching options to grow and develop with a young quarterback behind a solid offensive line. You're setting yourself up for a long-term future of offensive success, which is something we haven't seen in over 5 years, guys. Like seriously, it's a big brain thing. It's not one that I necessarily want to see the Broncos go in because I know that the defense is on a significant side of a rebuild, but at the same time, it's a big brain thing. And if you get that offense set up and then you can work around your defense and kind of get some younger guys there, it might take 2 years to get it all set up and ready to go. But when it does finally hit and click, you're talking about 5-year window of like long-term success if you do this, if you hit that quarterback position.
So can I do a quick rapid fire of some questions real quick?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Go ahead.
All right.
We're gonna
Holden
get out
Adams
of here in a minute.
Holden Adams coming in from Facebook. We appreciate you joining us, Holden. He says, would you trade back in the second round or top of the third for Baron Browning? I take Baron Browning at number 40 overall.
Yep.
He's a versatile linebacker that can do anything you want. Clifton Harris came in on YouTube, says Trey Smith, Bulls guard tackle, can take over Elijah Wilkinson's role, should be on the board at pick 40. He'll probably be on the board in round 4 as well. He had a really terrible Senior Bowl week that he just showed so many issues with giving up his outside corner and defensive lineman taking it.
Probably a guard.
You just hard to trust. It's hard to trust him, especially at tackle. I think he cemented himself as a guard-only prospect. Gary Smith, do y'all think that Denver is shopping at the thrift store? Sometimes you can get treasure from another man's trash, but dang, why they want to go get someone that's proven. I don't think that they're shopping at the thrift store by choice. The ownership situation has put a little bit financial strain on them with cash wise. So I think they kind of have to go cheap, but they have definitely looked to spend over the past few years. Graham Glasgow, Juwan James. It's just a matter of they're making mistakes with what they're signings. It came out that they didn't even talk to Chris Cooper before they signed Juwan James, and having been with the Dolphins, that was a big mistake there. Malcolm Brown says, talk faster. I'm inspired to do another mock draft now. Hey, always do a mock draft. And if you guys have Twitter, always feel free to send them to me. I love looking at people's mock drafts. And if my talking fast ever is bothersome, feel free to say in the chat, hey, Eric, slow it down.
Same. I got one. I
don't know if you have answered this, but who would you like the Broncos to draft if they're both available? Caleb Farley or Patrick Surtain? Definitely Caleb Farley. I think that he's a better scheme fit. I think he's more versatile, and I think he can do a lot more for your defense than Patrick Surtain. Don't get me wrong. I like Patrick Surtain as a prospect. If I'm running a press man scheme, he is the guy I want, like full speed ahead on him. Then R. Powell says, is there a blocking tight end in the later rounds we should go get? Luke Farrell out of Ohio State. I really like Matt Bushman's upside. And I think that Noah Gray out of Duke or Tony Poljan out of, I think, Virginia have some good upside. Both former quarterbacks transferring to tight end. So it's still a little raw there, but definitely they have the upside to go with that. And then Richie Rich, last one before I pass it off to you to do some things, says, more than just some, Eric, although I agree with your analysis. Can't remember what that was too, but now off the top of my head, I had it when I brought it up, but now I can't remember.
Brian Greenfield jumping in here. Nothing to say, just a $5 super. We appreciate you, Brian, for joining the show. Richie, this is one that I wanted to grab here really fast. Lance, that was an interesting take. I'm talking about the wide receivers here. The issue I have is how and why would that help Fangio? If you did that, I'd be pissed. He needs players to keep our D up to his expected level. Now, while I agree with you, and there's going to potentially be some turnover here, I imagine Justin Simmons, that deal should be done here, I hope, soon. I know they have offers exchanged. They weren't necessarily they were close, but not quite. It should be done here soon, hopefully. Shelby Harris, I know that they have an offer on the table for him as well. So hopefully you're going to see two of your core players brought back. Yeah, they need to add some cornerback depth. Yeah, they need to add some they need to add a linebacker and probably an interior defensive lineman. Even though you're going to get Shelby Harris back, you're going to lose DeMarcus Walker for sure. We don't know about Deshaun Williams. Hopefully he's retained. Mike Purcell is going to be coming back. So there's potential need for the Broncos to go get an interior defensive lineman. I get that. I understand exactly what you're talking about here. But to me, the issue isn't Fangio. The scheme actually works. He just had that ravage of injuries all over the course of the season. You bring in Jarrell Casey, he played one game and like a handful of snaps in the second game. And Von Miller never played a snap. You're down. AJ Bouye missed a bunch of time. Bryce Callahan missed some time. You had Essing Bassi missed time. They had to sit down Michael Ojemudia there for a little bit. Like the defense got decimated by injuries. Everyone's like the injuries for the offense. It was just absolute no. The injuries on the defensive side of the football, and Vic Fangio had to completely change his philosophy. He was bringing more blitzes than he's ever brought in his entire career this last year. He switched from that cover 4 defense to a 2-man defense because he didn't have the horses up front be able to actually create pressure the way they needed to, and to have the coverage guys on the back end. If everyone comes back healthy, you get Justin Simmons and Shelby Harris back. You plug in a couple of different pieces defensively because I like the depth on the defense in the second and third round here this year more than I like the top end guys in the defense. I think you can find a coverage linebacker on day 2, on day 3. I think you can get another interior defensive lineman. I think you can go grab another cornerback as well, and they're probably going to be active in free agency and go get we talked about Kevin Johnson earlier. Patrick Peterson's potentially an option there. You can go and get some holes to plug up and still be able to go get a Kyle Pitts or a Jalen Waddle at 9 and add to the offense and continue to have that youth movement on the offensive side of the football, sustain that youth movement and get some continuity and those guys grow together and still retool your defense all at the same time. You don't have to be pigeonholed into going defense at number 9 overall because the top end talent at the defensive side of the football this year, yeah, they're the top end talents because the top end talents that you got to have those guys. Caleb Farley would be like cornerback 4 a couple of years ago. Patrick Surtain might be cornerback 2 a couple of years ago. Like he's not the top cornerback right now. Micah Parsons, yeah, he might be. If you go back to the Devin White, Devin Bush draft, he would probably still be the linebacker 1. But there's so many issues that you have outside of that off the field. There's so many different ways that you can look at this and go get better value and scheme fit players on day 2 and day 3, it's so amazing to think that the multiplicity of everything that's going on here. Dylan, I appreciate that. Thank you. The way that you can look at this, if you don't have to be pigeonholed to taking a defensive player at 9, you can go and still add to the defense throughout the rest of your draft. It's a high quality defensive draft, guys, especially on day 2 and 3.
So there was just 2 more comments I realized I grabbed the wrong Richie comment earlier. This is the one I meant to grab. It says, I disagree with you on Beck. When used as a pass catcher, he did well. Hey, Richie Rich, there's 2 types of people in this world. There's those that believe, there's those that don't believe in Beck's ability as a pass rusher or a pass catcher, and there's those who are wrong. And then the last one, let me get down here, is from Leroy Williams. I wouldn't worry about scheme fit on defense because Fangio won't be here next year. I think it's very too early to say that for sure. If it was guaranteed that Vic Fangio wasn't here last year, he would have been fired already. Because you don't waste a year for continuity if you're making that change anyways. Because then your continuity is just destroyed. Now, and then the final point on this is that you want your players to be successful. You want your coach to be successful because you never want to replace your coach.
Yep.
So you draft the guys who fit the scheme. You want them to be successful. If the Broncos don't take a scheme fit, they risk breaking them beyond repair. That's what has happened time and time again. There is multiple books out there. I've been reading a lot of them, and they always talk about how the biggest thing that coaches and GMs attribute to a failure of a draft pick is that they just ended up not fitting the scheme. There's other aspects like injuries and work ethic, but it always came down to they took a bet on his talent overall, and it failed because he didn't fit the scheme. Scheme fit matters. It matters a lot, and I think that if Denver weren't looking at it, then that's a huge thing. I'll add, as it pertains to Patrick Surtain, as I've been very adamant that he doesn't fit the scheme. Now, obviously, I am not an NFL employee. I am not an NFL scout. I have no issues admitting that I make mistakes. I have made many mistakes in my scouting career for the different companies that I have worked for. And if the Broncos take Patrick Surtain, they see more in his ability to fit what Vic Fangio does and more scheme versatility. That's the big thing. If Vic Fangio is gone next year, again, not a given, they want scheme versatile guys. Because if they take a guy who only fits one scheme, they're pigeonholed next year into finding a defensive coach who runs that specific scheme, alienating the rest of your players on defense. So you want scheme versatility. So if they take him, they view that they can make him work in Vic Fangio's scheme. They see these traits that I don't see in him, and they see him as a scheme versatile guy just in case Vic Fangio is gone.
All right, last one here, guys, before we get out of here. And Eric, I actually agree with you on that. That goes into the part that I was talking about to Richie Rich on that Fangio thing. You don't want to fire Vic Fangio. You want him to have success. There's ways around that without taking Parsons tonight. Brian Greenfield coming in here, last super chat of the night first before we got to get out of here. We're actually over our hour mark. I keep hearing Andy Dalton. I sure hope not. Would rather have Fitzpatrick. I think he's a better quarterback at this point in their careers. Thoughts? I'm going to take this first, Eric. I actually have a hot take coming here because this is something that I've, with the high end athleticism upside, the good arm strength, and the ability to put the ball wherever he wants to, just with the bonehead decision making. Drew Lock is Ryan Fitzpatrick 2.0. I
don't know if that's exactly a hot take or anything.
But they profile so similarly because Fitzpatrick, he has all the tools to be a top 10 guy. He really does. And he just has never been able to erase that stigma of being completely turnover prone. I mean, having a 6 interception game against the Kansas City Chiefs back, half a decade ago, that definitely helps add to that. And he was playing well in Miami this year. Don't get me wrong. And he did a lot of really good things, but that's that YOLO ball mentality. And Andy Dalton, while he might not be the flashiest guy, I think that I would rather go Dalton there just because and as you said, Fitzpatrick's probably a better quarterback. If we're going Andy Dalton and he has to play, he's putting the Broncos in a better position for a higher draft pick, guys. Let's just be honest here.
That's what I was going to say. If Drew Lock fails, then it means you're looking at a quarterback. I want the quarterback that his name isn't Fitzmagic for a reason. And want the guy who might actually cost us games like Andy Dalton. So I want the worst backup quarterback. Heck, I'd stick with Jeff Driscoll in case Drew Lock doesn't fail and put him out there. Because let's get those L's, baby, to go get a better draft pick. Got to fix that quarterback position. Until you have a quarterback, you're a have not. You got to have that quarterback position. And Malcolm Brown, real quick, just want to say this is no problem. Paid NFL scout staff make a lot of mistakes with draft projections too. They definitely do. Yeah. But there's definitely a little bit more of what's the word? I guess I look at it as I'm not held accountable for my mistakes as much, simply because if they make too many mistakes, they get fired. They lose their job. The team's bad. They get replaced.
Yep.
And at least so far in my time working under Chad, that hasn't happened yet. So maybe it's just a little overconfidence into that. But it's definitely you're not wrong. But I like to hold myself accountable for the many mistakes I've made. And I do try to admit when I am wrong.
I will admit probably the biggest draft flop that I have is Paxton Lynch. I will definitely. Brett Smith.
I thought he would be something. I had him as a second round pick. Yeah.
Facebook user, not exactly sure who you are. I'm going to pull this up here really fast because he says, I think that Locke will have a bounce back here. Not exactly sure who you are, Facebook user. There's some settings of permission you need to use to allow YouTube to be able to use your name. So come back at us. I'll come check the I'll come check the stream after this is over and respond to you. I can see it. I definitely can. I like
that's the best thing for the Broncos. If they don't get a quarterback this year.
Yep, that is the best thing that could potentially happen to the Broncos. Now back onto the draft before I close this down here. Let them hate as well. Before I close this out here, the draft is the ultimate crapshoot, guys. It really is. Like you can think you know something about a player and do all the tape study and everything like that, but unless you're actually in the room and talking to him and understanding his football IQ, there's a lot of different things that can go wrong. Like Eric said, injuries, not fitting the right scheme, just unfortunate circumstances, whatever off-field issues, something like that. You never know. Like picking players in the draft and doing scouting, you can get a general idea of what this player could potentially be, but he might not ever live up to that potential. A high-end athleticism guy in Micah Parsons, maybe he doesn't want to work on his coverage. Now he's an Alexander Johnson 2.0. He's going to flame out of the league in the next 6 years. Because you can upgrade over that. It happens. So long as you're at least willing to admit your mistakes and understand that you're going to be wrong more often than you're going to be right. Like, quite honestly, Eric, I know that you can probably actually no, you're not going to admit that. But
okay, admit what?
That you're wrong more often than you're right.
I am. Yeah. I am often wrong a lot more than I am right, especially when it comes to projecting players in the draft. Where they go, where I think they go, because quite frankly, there's a lot of information I don't have. So I'm not able to. There's just stuff I'm not able to get, and I can't factor it into my stuff. I'm not a doctor. I don't have access to the medical reports, so it's a lot of information I don't have. And then Facebook user came in and said his name is Clayton.
Oh, Clayton, thanks for joining tonight, man.
And then last thing, real quick, Clifton Harris. Why did Carlos Sanderson get released? Just off-field stuff. He never got his head straight.
Yeah, no, he got pulled over one time, had a bag of weed in his car, and then ate the weed in front of the cops, essentially. And yeah, it was not a good thing. Carlos Henderson had all the talent in the world with a nickel head. He had $1 million talent with a nickel head. So that's pretty much how that is. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. Y'all, follow us on Twitter. Get at me. My DMs are now open. I didn't realize that they were closed. My DMs were open. If you got any questions, come at me at Sanderson MHH, for Eric at Erick Trickel, John Cronenberg at John K MHH. That's the producer, the guy behind the keys. Always give him a follow as well. Get at him. He will do a great job of redirecting. If you guys have any questions, he will redirect them to us, and we'll get you guys' questions answered. While you're at it, following things and doing the stuff on the Twit machine at DVDD_pod, the easiest way to keep in touch with what is going on with the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. Also, guys, at Mile High Huddle, that's the mother account. You're going to get breaking news and an analysis, opinion articles, film breakdowns, stuff like that on your Denver Broncos from your favorite Mile High Huddle personalities, including myself, including Eric, Nick Kendall, Carl Dumler, Chad, Zach, everybody on the Huddle Up podcast network is over there at Mile High Huddle. If you're following that, you will not miss out on anything. Guys, if you're in a financial position and able to do so, head on over huddleuppod.com. That's the merch tent. I'm a concert guy, not a swag junkie. Merch tent. Get yourself a hat. Get yourself a hoodie. Eric's got the t-shirt on, the Dove Valley Deep Divers t-shirt. Go grab yourself some swag. Get your merch. Represent the brand. It's a great way to help grow the show. Great way to support the show as well. Facebook users, go to Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Become a supporter. Click that blue Become a Supporter button. You're going to get some premium content. You got Kelberman's Corner dropping every Sunday at noon. Looking at trying to start a new show on that as well. Me and Eric are, and potentially we even get Nick and Carl into this. Going to call it the 5280 views. We'll see how that works. Hopefully we can get off that off the ground here in the next month or so. But guys, if you're not able or willing to do something like that, the 3 easiest things that everybody should be doing as of this point: subscribe wherever you guys are watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, does not matter. Like every video you guys see on Mile High Huddle. Share every video you love. If you love it, share it. Get in front of as many Broncos fans as you possibly can. Also, last thing before we get out of here, shout out to Manscaped for supporting the show, our presenting sponsor. Go to manscaped.com, use the code HUDDLE for 20% off and free shipping on all your orders for all of your new male grooming equipment, including the Lawnmower 3.0. And they've got the Weed Whacker, they've got the wipes, they've got cologne that's all right, they've got the amazing underwear that you can go with, the travel case, everything. Manscaped.com, promo code HUDDLE, 20% off, free shipping on all your orders. Now, Eric, before we get out of here, it's draft season for real now. The Super Bowl's over. What's your next plan of operations here?
Here soon. I still have one last series to wrap up for my group videos, but then individual scouting reports are coming up. We have some ideas with what to do with the show. We'll definitely be doing a Would You Rather again, probably sometime in March, probably after free agency kind of happens, so the end of it. I know probably next week we'll have more information about it, but we are talking about doing a thing where we have one of you guys in the chat. We'll have a little contest, and the winner of the contest will join us for the show, and you will be the GM for a mock draft, and we'll be your scouting department.
Yep.
Kind of like the group mock thing that we do, where everybody in the chat is the GM instead of just everyone. It's just you. We'll have more information about that probably next week. And if you guys ever have some good topic idea that involves a draft, something you want to hear about, definitely hit us up on Twitter, and we'll talk about it and look at including it in one of these shows.
Yeah,
thank you guys everyone for joining in. It was definitely a fun night. Appreciated everybody who donated and just participated in the chat, as we always do. And I don't think we say that enough about how much we appreciate everybody who watches in.
Yeah,
So thank you guys for that, and we will see you next week. I hope you all have a good, wonderful weekend. And those of you who have 3-day weekends, I hope you enjoy your 3-day weekends.
Yeah, absolutely. President's Day is on Monday. Unfortunately, I don't have the day off. I still have to go to work. But no, back to the having somebody join the show. I think I have a pretty decent idea to try to get some people more interactive with us, especially on the Twit machine. Send us your mock drafts, guys. We'll send us your mock drafts. We'll pick our favorite ones and go between the two of them, kind of converse between the two of us and figure out, and then we'll get in contact with whoever potentially wins our conversation. Send us all your mock drafts. We want to get to know some of you guys as well, bring you on the show, put a face to the name, and have some fun with everybody. I think that's probably a pretty good idea, don't you think, Eric?
I definitely do. I like that idea. But anyways, even if with that, always send me your mock drafts. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, guys, that's going to do it for us. Thank you all once again for joining the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. You all stay safe. Take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you guys same time, same place. Next Friday is 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you guys later. Thanks.